So the last time the unemployment rate was this low, you were listening to this on the radio. That's Alvin Stardust, 1974, My Kookachoo, spent 7 weeks at number one. That was the last time Australia's jobless rate was around 3.5%. So let's look at how tight the labour market is through a company that actually tries to put people into jobs. Ben Wheeler is the Managing Director of the Queensland office recruitment company People2people. Ben, how tight are things here in Queensland for you? I'm sorry, Ben. I've got you now, I think, Ben. Yep, I've got you now. My bad. Sorry about that. How tight is the labour market?
That's all right. I would say make no bones about it. It's the most competitive I have ever seen the market, without a shadow of a doubt. It is fiercely competitive out there for staff, and I think it's pretty clear that employers are struggling to fill the vacancies they have. I think if you also factor in the COVID and cold and flu that's all going around, that many organisations have most of their staff, or a significant portion, of their staff that are off sick, and I think it's putting a lot of pressure on business. Now,
the traditional market economist would say, well, this would be good for people with certain skill sets because employers will be prepared to pay more. So, okay, Ben Wheeler, I want you to come to my company, but I know I'm in a competitive state, so I'm going to pay you 5% more than my competitor. Is that happening at all?
There definitely is significant upward pressure on salaries, and it's often where people go straight away about salaries, but it is not all about salaries. So we're seeing more than 5, 10, even 20% increases. But there's also many other things to look at, such as the benefits that people are looking for, and there's a whole range that are new. I think we didn't really talk about a lot a few years ago with extra leave. You've got gym memberships that are paid for, study leave, birthday leave, charity leave, you name it. There's extra parts. That's probably not going to be the defining factor in getting a staff member on board. Salary is going to be a big component, but what we do talk about a lot is working from home, of course, and flexibility. And there is often a disconnect between what does flexibility mean for one person versus an employer, but that comes up in almost every conversation when someone is looking to take on a new role, the work from home and the flexibility.
My guest, Ben Wheeler, is the Managing Director of office recruitment company People2people. Where is the highest demand for people to fill positions at the moment? What sort of industries or professions, Ben Wheeler?
I would say it's across mining and healthcare is where we're doing the most work, but I must say in broad terms it's pretty much everywhere. Almost every business is looking for staff, and almost every business is struggling to find. I've yet to speak to someone saying they've found it easy to take candidates on board.
I've seen a figure from elsewhere where the economist said it's basically one job vacancy to be filled to one person available. In other words, it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio, almost unheard of. Does that sound right for you?
I think it does. I think if it almost could be a little bit more than that, because if we have a candidate that comes to us, we'll often say they're looking for a permanent role. In a matter of weeks, they'll have multiple offers that will be put to them. So it really is a candidate's market, and often they'll get to decide. And as I said, it doesn't always come down to pay. People have got these great opportunities put in front of them.
This might sound like an obscure question, but I keep on hearing it, but I've never been able to get anyone to substantiate it, that a whole lot of people left the airline industry, everyone from pilots to ground staff to flight attendants, and got other jobs and aren't going back to the airline industry. Do you see any evidence of that at your company, Ben Wheeler?
We did see when the airline industry was certainly shedding stuff, a lot of people left the industry and have taken up new roles. I haven't seen a massive return to people that saying, right, we're going to go back to the airline industry. I think they've often gone into a different profession, and because it's so candidate short, they obviously can take their pick. Okay.
What are employers doing to incentivise workers? You mentioned that there's, it's not just about money. Can you tell me a couple of stories where an employer has said, look, I really want this guy, Ben Wheeler, and here's what I'm going to do?
Yes, I can think of an example where we had somebody that was a particular role, fairly hard with a legal background, a legal support role, and they had often a full relocation package, which included paying for somebody's pet to be relocated, and sort of very much made sure that they had time to sell and go above and beyond. extra leave that was included in that. Obviously, a very good salary package. And one thing that's really crucial at the moment, which I think is often forgotten, is that point where somebody's offered a role, they've signed a contract, and then before they start, there's this gap. And we call it the valley of death, where you don't talk to them often. An employer will just say, oh, they're starting on this date. But in between that time, it's crucial that you keep the communication open, because there's lots of examples where employers have got somebody due to start on a Monday, and they're getting this message, this email, this phone call saying, oh, sorry, I won't be there. Whereas that's obviously an awful situation to be in. So I would suggest, if you're an employer, make sure you keep the communication open during that notice period. The person's probably resigned to their employer. The employer might have matched it or said, we can't. And then they've gone and spoke to somebody like me and said, how much is it going to cost to replace the person? Figured out it's going to be a significant amount, and then offered that person the money anyway. So it can be quite a difficult process to go through, and it's full of challenges.
What do you call that? The valley of death, did you say?
Yes, yeah, the valley of death, because anyone who's obviously hiring staff at the moment will have a horror story about how they've secured somebody, and then at the last minute they don't have anybody.
What areas or skill areas are very attractive at the moment? In other words, should I try and adapt my skill set to a particular industry at the moment in Queensland?
I think that the aged care industry is particularly an area that's got a huge demand, and I think we can all see that it's going to continue. It's not something that you'd expect particularly to turn off anytime soon.
Okay.
We've got an ageing population, and I think if you're looking for a sustainable career, that's definitely one that seems like it's going to have a shortage for a very long time. I'd also say that we're seeing people look to take on new skills, particularly around digital media. That's definitely been a growth area, and I think if anybody's looking to upskill, that's a good area to look at.
At the moment, there's a push by business interests to fast-track skilled immigration and work permit processes to fill the gaps. What would the effect of that be here, Ben Wheeler?
I think I absolutely think it's the right thing to do, and I think that it's been a shame we haven't been doing it earlier, to be honest. I think that it would be a very positive impact. As an example, when we had people that were able to move over to Australia, get their visa finally approved, and they were still having to do the quarantine, we would find people a job before they left the hotel room. We did that on 2 occasions, where they had a Teams meeting, they did a video interview in the hotel room, and then they came out and had a week off, obviously, to have a bit of time outside, and then walk straight into a job.
It's that tight. Thanks for your time.